the seagulls follow the shore, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Hello, welcome to the Sunday Blether. Don't adjust your clocks. It is. We are an hour later than usual, but that is my fault today, guys. I kind of forgot. I'd promised my mum I'd take her out for a Mother's Day breakfast, and I was like, "Oh shit, I've got the bus," so I've had to push it back. So I do apologise, but thank you for joining us. This brunch time, 12 o'clock. Can we call that brunch?
Well, I call it lunchtime now.
All right, okay, we're on the. It's a lunch hour. Welcome to the lunch hour bulletin with the boys, the boss. Guys, we've got our usual lineup -1 this week. The face that runs the place has decided not to turn up. That's fine, Regan. We'll remember that, guys. We'll remember that. We'll hold them to it next week. But it's all good because we've got Mr. Friday Night here. We've got Phil McGinley.
Hello.
How you doing, Phil?
Yeah, I'm doing good, mate. All ready to go again for an Sunday Blether. Do enjoy a good wee chat at this time every week. So I'd like to be on and looking forward to getting into it. A lot to talk about in yesterday's game, put it lightly. A lot.
I'm glad you've got lots to talk about, mate, because I have not prepped as much as I usually do. I've put my hands up and saying that. But that's okay, guys, because we've got the judge who always likes to fill in the show with some juicy Celtic chat. How you doing, Judge? You doing good, my man? Oh, he's muted,
and he's muted. I'll unmute him. There you go.
There we go. Start again, mate.
I've just said I'm doing very well, guys. How are yous?
I'm doing good, mate. I got Mother's Day duties at the road. That's that done. So happy days. Kids now can let the rest of my Sunday just sail on by.
Yeah.
But well, guys, for all you watching, happy Mother's Day to everybody's mothers. We'll get that out there, and obviously. Thoughts are with us for those whose mums are no longer with us, but I hope your mums have a great day. Speaking of Mother's Day, if there's a late Mother's Day gift that you need to get onto piesports.com. Get your mama pie for piesports.com, but don't tell her that you've got a discount code because she'll not be happy that you've saved 12.5% off using the bus code bus 1888. You can get a nice macaroni pie. steak pie, curry pie, all the pies on Mother's Day. While we're talking about the sponsorships, we'll talk about all that good stuff, Phil. So if you
Yes,
want to
indeed.
like, subscribe, you can maybe get your mum a Boise Bus membership. Well, all the content is still the same, but we don't need to tell your mum that. All our content is free. And of course, if you're really generous, you can get your mum a Boise Bus t-shirt. She'll love that. She'll absolutely love to be sporting a Boise Bus t-shirt, which now our orders have arrived at bus headquarters, and they'll be getting posted out to the contributors for us to be wearing and advertising and showing off. And of course, that means that your orders are about to get put in as well, because I think the deadline is this week.
This
Can't remember.
coming Friday, which I believe
This
is the
coming
24th. I'm not sure. Basically, yeah, it's a bit there. Russell will confirm that the next time he's on, which should be.
Yes, he can confirm that.
really
But get your orders in, guys, because the orders are about to get put in for the passengers. And yeah, I can't wait to get mine, and I'm sure you all can't wait to get yours. But that's all the Mother's Day adverts out the way. You get your mum a ball sack trimmer as well. No, I'm joking.
Oh my God, if we were going down that route with them sponsoring us, oh my God. I've always said to Russell, if that ever came up, is I am not recording an advert for that. I am not doing it. I couldn't do it with a straight face. Fair play to the 20-minute Tims who can do it with a straight face, but I couldn't.
I could do it either. Right, let's move on for that.
Yes, let's move on. Yes.
Judge. I have to admit, didn't see the game. I wasn't able to get a stream yesterday. I'd been dragged along to Comic-Con Aberdeen yesterday with my daughter to go and meet all the Walking Dead cast. So I was unfortunately not able to watch the game. Although I did manage to catch ex-Rangers TV by the looks of sports scene last night with Richard Foster and all that crew, Neil McCann and all that. So I managed to catch the highlights of the game. They had plenty to say on it. Did you manage to see any of it yesterday, mate? Did you watch the game? Were you at the game?
No, I was at the game, mate. I was in my usual wee perch up at the Jockstein upper, but I think the Walking Dead was the referees yesterday. I don't really know how your Comic-Con went, but they made an arse it yesterday. It was a disgrace. The referee, the first minute to the last, it was just Steve McLean having a Steve McLean game, and the linesman didn't help him very much either. Just a typical performance. Allowing the play to be stopped as much as possible. 11 David Marshall to pull a Craig Gordon performance, taking 50 seconds a minute to take any by kick. It was just a joke. But we couldn't expect that. Even I had the dugout, they flung the ball on the park twice. You know what I mean? People are kind of forgetting that happened twice. You know, I think he got a yellow card, the manager, for no control in his dugout, and he had a complaint about that. We also had the ball boys. There's about 5 times I counted there was 2 balls in the park. The ball boys were just sitting down. It was a strange one at Celtic Park. Normally they're on their toes. It was a weird match yesterday. I must admit, I had even though they had 10 men, there was a feeling in there that yes, it just might have been the match that they dropped points. It just looked like one of the games that just nothing was going to happen for us. Even David Marshall pulled off a couple of saves. I think it's been a long time since David Marshall's made a save at Celtic Park. Even when he was a Celtic goalkeeper, he was red rotten. But no, I thought yesterday was I think it was quite a vital 3 points for Celtic, because the gap's 9 points. We all know that, but when you start to even dropping at 2 points, and there's games in the corner, there's injuries, these things the narrative can turn very quickly, and the mood music can turn very quickly. And I thought Celtic, but the Celtic players done a really good job of staying calm, because I can assure you the stands weren't calm. It was a very nervy match, and other than the players and Ange Postecoglou, I think everybody in the stadium thought that it was a nervy match. But you will find the folk who were pretending that they had total confidence that we're going to win the match. But me personally, I was shitting myself with 10 minutes to go, and knowing the referees can waste a minute or two just by stopping play, speaking to players who have made 1 or 2 fouls. The usual tactics we see, and I think yesterday showcased the very worst of VAR and the very worst of Scottish football. Through a whole, I think that every match had a couple of times that the VAR showed up that the utter mess that it is in this country.
Mm-hmm. Phil, you were at the game yesterday as well. Was the atmosphere in the grounds? Was it a nervy affair around you at the park?
don't know if nervy would be the word I would use. I think a lot of the fans have now become accustomed to, even if we go behind this team, but there's no panic. I think if a team is going to beat us, they're going to have to score pretty late in a game, because if you score sometime in the first half, you're giving us plenty of time to come back. So you do get the usual restless fans. There is pockets around the stadium that do get a bit huffy if we are behind or we're drawing, and a misplaced pass or something. There's always the usual groans from some, but ultimately, it was the atmosphere. At first, it was a bit funny. It felt a bit flat initially, because I think Russell said it last night on PMP. The first 20 minutes of the game, nothing really happened to get you excited. It usually needs a flashpoint to get the crowd up a bit. We've seen it before, and usually VAR comes along and provides that. And of course, all that weird penalty that they got, and obviously, if it's a stupid moment from Starfelt, but in the stadium, we were not given any real clues what was going on. Usually, when there's a VAR check, you'll get a thing put up on the screen saying VAR check, possible penalty, and the guy on the PA system will tell you that. That didn't happen this time. Instead, it just was played out in front of your eyes, goes over to the screen, comes back, and then it came up on the screen. Oh, then we got an announcement, decision, penalty. But that also gets the crowd up. But I felt that the atmosphere really picked up after the goal to put us 2-1 up, because froze himself at that goal. The seat I sat in at the Warjock scene, perfect view of it. Great delivery for David Turnbull. First time we scored off a corner, and I can't even remember. Way back at the start, he might even be Stevie Welsh on the first day of the season. That's how long ago I think it is since we scored for a corner. But it's one of the ones that's coming in, and because I'm sitting dead centre with the goal, you can see just gets a bit of space, and you know where it's going next. It just landed perfectly in his head, and I think his celebration really G'd up the crowd, because the atmosphere after that, there was a bit of needle in the air. It felt like the crowd really came alive after that, and but yeah, a great 3 points. And Haksabanovic as well, rolling back to just a few weeks ago, another one where he's ran across the face of the goal and bent at the far corner. I think that's the third time he's done that, because he did it against Ross County just before the World Cup break. Remember, he scored one as well where he ran across the face of the goal and bent into the far corner. And then he did it against Hearts, but it was up into the top corner. But he seems to be good at that move of just shooting from outside the area and put it in the far corner.
Do you not think it was nervy yesterday? I thought that the full stadium was... There wasn't just pockets of fans, Phil. I mean, you're talking 50,000 people were nervy yesterday. Well, maybe not you, but I mean, everybody at the stadium was huffing and puffing and moaning and groaning. I don't think it was pockets of fans. I mean, the full stadium was up in arms with every decision the referee was making.
Oh, well, the referee was
always
going to provoke a reaction.
No, I mean, I think the frustration in the Celtic fans with some of the play, especially, I mean, I think anyone was surprised that the utter messy a performance that O'Reilly put on, or Turnbull, apart from his corner kick. The fans are
I would like to talk about O'Reilly at some point, Mark.
Oh, I hope so, mate, because he's rotten.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that opinion. I want to, before we do that though, I mean, from what, obviously there's maybe conflicting opinions on terms of what the atmosphere like at the stadium, but even from, so when I was, like I said, I wasn't able to watch the game. I was sitting there watching these guys on the stage talking about a TV show, but I'm sitting there on my phone, and my mate, he's keeping me up to date, and like I was getting the impression, even just for him watching it at home, that it felt like a nervy game. He was getting nervous, like they were just what he was saying in the text messages, and then obviously the big yes coming up on the screen. I actually signed a bit of a relief sitting amongst all these people dressed up as cartoon characters, and I'm like, oh, thank God for that. So like, I felt a bit of relief just reading it off a text. So I could only imagine that there probably was a bit of nervousness. Are we starting to see a theme here that we're not really starting the game off as we mean to go on? It's almost like, I don't want to say stale, but it was like almost lacking of ideas. Is that to do with the way opposition teams are trying to counter our style of football? Obviously sitting back and allowing us to have the ball, and just not giving us any space in behind. Is it? And then obviously we get a bit of a kick up the arse at half time. It just seems to be a bit of a theme going on there. Would you say that's right, Phil?
Well, that's 3 league games in the bounce now, isn't it? We've been behind St Mirren, Hearts, and Hibs. But I just feel like it's a case of when teams do score against, they're going to have to score really late. Because for me personally, anyway, I just feel like there's no real danger. There will come a day where it just won't happen for us, but with the way this team's playing at the moment, you always feel like there's going to be chances there. We're going to eventually find one. And even yesterday, I mean, at half time, we obviously were trudging off a goal down. Any boos were definitely aimed at Mr. McLean, because there was a bit of grumbling when the whistle goes. There was a few applause around me. There's a bit of encouragement, but it seems Steve McLean's walking towards the tunnel. Jesus, man, the noise just amps up with all the boo stuff, and that could be misinterpreted by certain other fans that might be watching the game thinking the Celtic players get booed off at halftime. No. Stephen McLean and his assistants get booed off at halftime. That's what happened there. But no, it's when it comes to the way we've been starting games recently, again, I'm not too worried about it, because I just feel like we're going to carve out chances. Teams can't even live with the way we play over the course of the 90 minutes and stuff. So I'm always quite comfortable when we're going a goal down at the moment.
Mark, what was your most frustrating part about the refereeing performance yesterday? Because, again, I keep reiterating, I didn't manage to see the game. I've watched the highlights, so it still don't give you much in terms of refereeing performance highlights. I've seen obviously the red card, which I thought was, to be honest, I thought it was the correct decision. I felt, actually, when I first saw it, it's interesting watching a game back when you know the score, but you haven't seen the game live. If I was to watch all these decisions happening live, obviously I'd probably have a completely different perspective of when watching it this morning. I actually felt the first yellow card on Starfelt could have been, I thought borderline could have been a red card, if I'm honest. I thought it was a very late challenge. It was a very high, unnecessary challenge where the foot. That Richard Foster, what an absolute walloper he is, man, sitting there with his double denim fucking jacket on sports scene, going on about saying that there was no contact. I'm sorry, but the boy absolutely nails it. Like, if you watch it enough times, you can see where the contact is, and it's right at Starfett's knee. He's giving it all. He looks like he's rolling about as if he's had his leg chopped off. He's lucky his knee wasn't, hadn't burst. I personally thought it could have been a red card, so I thought the boy was lucky to be on the pitch then. So I certainly felt that was the right decision for the sending off. Obviously, Lee Johnson, who somehow thinks that Carter Vickers is 6'7" or 6'3", like you said. I mean, maybe for where you're standing, Lee Johnson, like that. But if you're thinking he's 6'7" and you don't think that wasn't a second bookable offence, and I don't know what. But I thought obviously the ref got that decision right. But what was it you were finding frustrating about the refereeing decisions yesterday?
Well, it's the same thing we're seeing all the time. The referees are facilitating the opponent's game plan to waste as much time and frustrate the fans and the team as much as possible. I mean, Ange Postecoglou touched on it, said at half time, we kind of told the players just to basically try and keep the ball and play as much as possible, because don't give away daft free kicks, things like that, because they're just going to stifle the momentum that we've got. And it's happening week in, week out. I mean, Hearts they're hammer throws, but Hearts are almost like the worst team in the league for, in my opinion, wasting time. You get Craig Gordon, he can take 1.5 minutes to take a bye kick. That's a lot of time when you actually think about it. Like David Marshall yesterday, he was the exact same. I mean, honestly, I'm not got words to tell me how much that guy annoyed me last night. But the referee just facilitated it. It was facilitating them. They were going down in the box, holding their knees, holding their backs. They were just totally. There was one occasion actually in the second half that a Hibs player got injured about 1 yard away from the byline. And
Paul Hanlon it was in there.
In the box, and the referee he brought on the physio to have a look at him, and rather than just so he told the player to come off the park, which was like a one step and they'd be off the park. He told him to do it. The player ignored him and they walked towards the 18-yard line and just walked across the line for the pitch, the bid for the pitch. And he didn't even book him or even blow his whistle. In fact, he walked out to the goalkeeper and says, "Give me another minute to run to the halfway line before you take the bye kick." Just allowed Hibs to waste as much time as possible. And that might seem like a small tactic. It might seem a bit like, I don't understand what the problem is. But see, when you've got a team whose tactics are so much geared on fast-paced philosophy that your ball boys are actually taught or at least instructed to fling the ball to them, Celtic players as fast as possible, to stifle their opponents, to get the ball moving as fast as possible. See, you've got a team that just constantly are getting facilitated by the referee to just stifle that as much as possible. It's almost like it's a leveller. Not a leveller as such, but it's almost like the referees are allowing it because they're saying, oh well, we need to give these teams a chance, you know what I mean? And that's not what they're there for. They're there to referee the match, no matter what the scoreline is, no matter who the opponents are, to referee it by the law. And I don't think we're getting that. And unless Celtic are winning 5-0, I mean, even when they're winning 5-0, the referees are allowing time wasting. And I mean, you saw it. I mean, the yellow card that was dished out to the Hibs manager. Yep. It's like it was the second time the ball was flung in the park by somebody in the dugout. It wasn't the first time. And I said before, the ball boys, I think it was about 4 or 5 times the ball boys were flinging the balls in the park. And it was 2 balls, and I think at one point Cameron Riley was going to smack the ball into the stand, and he ended up just kind of changing his mind at one point and just remembered where he was and just kind of eased the ball off the side of the pitch. And it's frustrating to watch, and I think when you go behind, it's more frustrating. But I've seen Celtic fans giving the referee a hard time for this, for no matter what the score is, because the Celtic fans are entertained by football. As a football fan base, we want to see good football, we want to see good goals and creative play. Some fan bases want to see broken legs and people getting their ankles snapped. Celtic fans appreciate good football, and that's the sort of thing that people say we get football stopped in this country. It's just a bad tactic. It's like no wonder teams and managers and international managers don't take it seriously. When they watch football in this country, they'll see one team trying and the rest of them just basically rolling over and getting their bellies tickled, and the referees facilitating that. It's just a shit show by every other club apart from Celtic. It's actually frustrating. We've got a manager who's able competing at such a high level with his tactics and his philosophy, and he's up against guys who are still there with beige cheek, his own flagging 2 balls over the park, right, hoping that it stops Celtic. Frustrating as fuck.
It was really disappointing as well, just because like Hibs are a team that, I don't know, maybe my mind's playing tricks on me, but they're one of the teams for the years that don't really, they try and play a bit of football. That's always been a thing I've associated with Hibs. But yesterday they were no different from, you mentioned Hearts there. Some of the teams that come to Celtic Park, Ross County, Motherwell, pure hammer throwers, time wasting, shithousery with the whole throwing the ball on the park and all that. And it's like, man, I had this idea in my head that Hibs were always a team that came and gave you a bit of a game and wanted to play a bit of football, but my God, they were horrendous to watch yesterday.
Maybe put it down to the fact that we've given them a few heights, especially under Lee Johnson lately, and he's probably thought maybe this isn't the tactic to go with, and we'll try our luck at see if we can frustrate. Because at the end of the day, the only team to beat us domestically is St Mirren, and that's exactly what they did, and they got the rewards, and I think that's probably why the likes of Lee Johnson thought maybe this isn't the way to go, and we will try this as well. But hey, at the end of the day, we got the result. I want to talk about O to me is a player that I don't know why I just gravitated towards him immediately when we signed. I really wanted him to do well. I'm sure everybody is the same. I just feel like you needed that kind of opportunity yesterday when we're needing a goal. We need him to step up. It wasn't quite Kyogo's day yesterday, from what I gather. I know he had one cleared off the line, and then he dropped back into more of a 10 role when O came on. But I was really glad to see that O got on the score sheet to put us ahead when we needed it most, and it wasn't a penalty. It was a nice, big, solid bullet header into the top corner. He was well marked, but he was far too strong for the boy, and he got his just rewards. He has a bit of a maverick. He has almost, like you say, he's taken over the Giakouamkis role very well. Like I think Boyce alluded to it yesterday. Even the celebration was very Giakouamkis-esque. This guy's got loads of confidence. It's almost like the coming of age goal that you needed from him. And I'd like to look back at some of the other players that, what players come to mind when it was like they've arrived. And, like, obviously, I think you look back at Dembele with a hat-trick against Rangers. And, and obviously, like, just yesterday, just getting that goal, really just getting him off the mark. And I think, like, now that not only has it probably settled his nerves that he's got that goal, but I think it's maybe even settled the nerves of, obviously, the fans and even his teammates. There's times when I see the ball when I think, why is O's in a great position there? And it's went out wide, maybe just out of habit, other than when O's screaming for the ball in a great position and he doesn't get it. I'm sometimes sitting there going, what does this boy need to do to get the ball past him? Is it just a lack of confidence in his own teammates yet that they're like, we're not quite sure yet? But I certainly think now, even just the way he celebrated, the way the players celebrated with him, it was like a he's arrived. He's that's him arrived. all confidence is there now. He's gonna shoot off. It's like Giakouamkis. You know, he kind of was quite frustrating at the start. He wasn't getting his just rewards, and obviously when he got off the market and he got that opportunity, he really ran with it. And I think that could be the same at all. But what players come to mind to you, looking back on players that were in that same situation?
I would say, I don't know if it's really a carbon copy, but I think when you mentioned Dembele's hat-trick against Rangers, that was quite early in his time. But when we initially signed Edouard, he was still like third in the pecking order for the good first few months of the season, where it was still Dembele, Griffiths was still getting more game time. Edouard did net a hat-trick against Motherwell, but still never really, you know, it never like sprung. It was until that game at Ibrox when he came off the bench and scored that winner at the Broomloan end. That was the moment where I think that Edouard had really put his name on the map. We were like, oh, this guy. He even scored a hat-trick a few months before against Motherwell, but that didn't seem to get him the regular game time. But it was when that one went in against Rangers at Ibrox, that was like a launching pad moment that people really opened their eyes to. Odds Edouard, by the way, this guy is a right player. That one springs to mind right away.
Anybody for you, Mark? And this goes out to the viewers as well. I'll bring up some of your comments if there's anybody that spring to mind for you as well.
I remember John Hartson getting a hat-trick. I think it was against Dundee United at Celtic Park. He only scored for about 2 months, and he was question marks over him. His efforts at Celtic, he wasn't performing well. He was a big lumpy guy. He looked a bit cumbersome, looked a bit like somebody's in the wrong movie. But when he got that hat-trick, he never looked back. I think he scored about another 15 goals that season. I mean, and for a guy who never scored in 2 months, it looked like he was never going to settle into Celtic. In 2 months is probably typical Celtic fans panicking, but folk were writing him off as somebody who was not going to get a lot of game time and we wasted money. But I remember him getting the hat-trick, I think we won 5-0 that day. And I think that he can announce himself at Celtic, you know what I mean? Because only before that was a flashpoint. He came on as a sub, and the first thing he did was nearly snap a Kilmarnock player's leg, you know what I mean? And I don't think Celtic fans were all that impressed with his performances, and that's probably one that sticks to mind. And there always has been moments where you think, oh, players have arrived. Some do it instantly, but some take a bit of time, and it's still the same thing. I think you need a striker needs a big goal, especially a striker. And to be honest with you, I thought it was going to be a bit of a project. I thought he's a guy we might see next season a bit more, and I think Ange touched on that after the match. He says we're kind of slowly on Hatate Park, bleeding him into Celtic and Celtic style, but it was good for him last night, yesterday, to get that goal, because that might just propel his self-confidence. Not that he's lacking, but it might just propel him a wee bit more further up the food chain than what we're expecting at this stage.
Yeah, I think so as well. The thing with that, it's like we were really screaming out for a way to how do we get fit Giakouamkis and Kyogo in the same team, and we really got to see that. And when we did see it, you could argue it didn't necessarily work. However, I think there might be, like the way Ange talks about post-match, even when we signed him, he's quite giddy about him. I think we might see there might be a way that Ange is maybe trying to find a way that he can fit the two of them in together. And the way he's going on about saying, like, we're just kind of bleeding them in, which we didn't really see last season, because obviously there was no time to bleed players in, but they were kind of getting chucked in to the deep end immediately. We were sitting there expecting them to hit the ground running, especially when you see that obviously what happened with Kyogo, even Maeda scoring on his debut, Rio Hatate having an absolute dream debut also. But now we're in a position where we're actually quite comfortable that we don't need to chuck these guys into the deep end, and maybe it's just a bit like, I kind of got used to guys getting chucked in the deep end. I'm almost a bit taken aback that we're bleeding these guys in, but I think this has probably been the best thing for him. Haksabanovic, what cracks me up about him is like O's celebration song, the White Stripe song. It's a proper, it's a good song.
Seven Nation Army.
Absolutely cracks me up that Haksabanovic has got Jennifer Lopez's song.
Yep.
You must be sitting there kind of going like, oh, man.
He does a wee dance, so he does a wee shimmy to it anyway, so he's definitely getting into it.
Cracks me. I just find it funny how quickly like the DJs at Celtic just kind of they go, right, cool, that's the fans were making that up on Twitter, we'll just use that. But it's just funny to think about like the complete different genres of music choices. Just cracks me up. But Haksabanovic, again, obviously off the bench. Is he going to be an impact player for us? Do you really see him getting a long run as a starter? Because he just seems to be making a much more of a better case for himself as the guy that comes off the bench and comes up with a worldie for us, rather than being the guy that starts. I would like to see him start more. However, I don't think he didn't take the opportunity, I don't think, against Hearts to be a starter, but he certainly has made a case for himself to be the guy that should maybe be coming off the bench if we're needing a goal. Because I know Anges frequently went to Abada off the bench more frequently than Haksabanovic. Is it now where we should be looking at, right, we need to get him on the pitch a bit earlier if it's not really going our way, Mark?
I am a big fan of the guy. I think he's an exciting player to watch. He offers something totally different, especially on the wings and cutting in. You know what I mean? He comes across that box very easily. He just barges by players. He's got the technical ability to, as Phil says, just place the ball in the bottom of the corner of the net. He's an absolutely fantastic football player. I'm really excited about him. I'm really chuffed that he's here on a full-time contract and he's not on loan, because he's the kind of guy that sometimes you lose him before you see the best of him. But he's got a few years left on him. He's got a 4 or 5 year contract where they got, and I want to see him play as a starter under Ange. I think he deserves a few games. I mean, pre the World Cup, he was just producing week after week for Celtic. And I think he got a wee injury and he's no picked up where he left off. But he's scored goals off the bench, and that's hard to do. To come into a team that's running a 100 mile an hour and just pick up the pace and move on. We've all seen players that just find it so hard to make an impact, and Abada's Abada's the opposite of that. I think Abada's a better impact player than what he is a starter.
I agree with that. Yep.
Aye, and Haksabanovic can do both. I remember saying the same thing about Callum McGregor when under Rodgers, when Callum McGregor wasn't instantly a Celtic first 11 player. You know, he was getting game time and things like that, but he had the ability just to come on the park and just play like he'd been playing since the first minute. And that's a difficult knack to have for a football player, you know what I mean? Especially coming on halfway through a shift. You know what I mean? It's hard to pick it up. And he's got the ability, and it's obviously something different. And do you know, when I know we're going to speak about the team selection and Riley, etc. later, but when Hatate came off, I thought the obvious sub was okay, Turnbull coming on, but I thought something that I wanted to see was to bring on Haksabanovic and just check up the midfield a wee bit. I know Awata wasn't available and it probably hindered that's like for like sub, and but just pushed back Callum McGregor a wee bit again. But I wasn't entirely sure what, because O'Reilly and Turnbull together, I mean, if you're wanting a recipe for a slow paced football match, that's it right there for you. And Haksabanovic just gives you that directness. He's the kind of guy, when you pass the ball to him, I think he just looks up and looks for the goal and just runs towards it, and it opens up the space for so many players. He's just a brilliant football player, and it's a guy I want to see get more game time, because to me he's quite identical to the way Celtic want to play, and that's just turn around and face the goal and just go for it.
Mm-hmm. Phil, Mark wants to see Haksabanovic start more often. I certainly wouldn't be against it. Where does he fit in? If we're going to make him more of a starter, who do we drop out? I know Maeda's not really been hitting. He's kind of dipped in form again for me. Like, he still does all the things that's good about his game, all the positive things that he brings in terms of high energy, causing players to maybe panic a little. Is he the player that you drop out? So, but then Jota then still has to stay out on the right. Is there room for Haksabanovic to maybe move more into a number 10 role? I sometimes think he could maybe be that kind of, almost give him free rein. However, I know that goes against pretty much what Ange kind of wants out of his team. He's got these players in positions, and that's where you have to be. And they've all got their jobs. But I think he's the kind of player that could benefit from just being allowed to almost roam across the entire front. But where do you fit him in?
As is a real conundrum with Haksabanovic. It's a classic. It's a good headache for the manager to have, because if players are on for him, and majority of them are, then he's going to need to wait his turn. If he can do what he's doing just now, coming off the bench and, you know, having that impact, as Mark says, you know, it's a bit of an art to it where you can just come on and be able to just click right away. So that's a good weapon for us to have. If he is going to get in the starting lineup, it's going to be relying on, it's going to be one of the wingers. I don't see him playing him as an out-and-out striker. At first I thought Haksabanovic was signed as a guy that could play across the front three, left, right, or even through the middle, but I get the feeling it's either going to be the left side or right side, and it's all just dependent on who's on for him, and Jota, Maeda, you've still got Abada there as well. So the moment you've got the four of them are really competing for those two spots. And obviously does love Maeda. Maeda's definitely improved since the World Cup. He's had a few off days, on days, but he's getting more, I'd say, on days than off, because before that, he was very, very inconsistent. Jota, being the player that he is, for me, still, I think he's the best player on his day. He is the best player in the squad. But Abada's even, I think there was a stat the other week about Abada's our most used substitute this season.
Yeah.
Every game he's played, mate, aye.
Every single game where he started, he came on as a sub. And Abada, we saw against St Mirren the other week when he came on and he changed the game so he can come on. And it's a great headaches for Ange Postecoglou to have. If I was a manager, where'd I fit him in? I don't know. I really don't know right now. It's a good place to be in, though. You'd rather have players all on good form right now than them off. So, yeah, it gives us a really strong hand right now. And I know there's certain other teams around the league who have taken exception to this. It's like, it's not our fault that we've got a good squad and good squad depth. I must have missed the memo recently where that's Celtic's problem, but I've noticed that being a narrative recently in the newspapers and on online articles about a lot of teams are quite angry about how strong Celtic are, and it's like, that ain't our problem. That's just the way it worked out, pal. But yeah, Ange just find himself in a good position right now with such a strong team and such a strong hand. So many different possibilities. It keeps defences guessing because he could mix it up one week and it would keep it. The defence wouldn't know what to expect. It's a good place to be for him right now.
Rio Hatate went off injured yesterday. They're saying it's possibly a hamstring injury, so that could be a few weeks out, which isn't ideal. Obviously, that injury, a lot of people were saying that was one of the reasons why we just weren't really clicking into place yesterday. That we seem to be, we see a massive, well, we could argue maybe not a massive, but a lot of people think there's been about a massive drop off when Hatate's not in the team. Obviously, Mark, you alluded to you're not too keen on Matt O'Reilly's performances as of the season. I want to just quickly go through Matt O'Reilly's stats for the season, and I know.
Well, I know he's the top stat. I mean, Turnbull got an assist yesterday. I mean, I know he's the top assist, mate. I'll carry on.
No worries. So just to give you an idea of, and I'm not just going to go through his Celtic stats. Just quickly, just going to go over like his contributions before he joined the Celtic as well, just to give a sort of round off idea. So right now, this season, as far as this is aware, this has been updated. So he's played 29 games this season for us. He's scored 1 goal in the Prem, and he's got 10 assists. In the Cup, he's got 1 goal out of 3 games and 1 assist. Last season, he joined in January, and he only, I think it was like he scored like 3 goals and he had 3 assists or something. Now, the question I want to ask is, if we hadn't signed him in January and we'd signed him in this summer window, is our perception, or your perception, Mark, because we're going from your opinion here, would your perception of how his season has gone be different? Because I feel like when he joined Celtic, he came in with a big reputation from, yes, a League One side, MK Dons. However, we have spoken in the past that he was highly regarded by the pundits down south that he was far too good for that league, far too good for that league. And obviously we managed to snap him up, and he really did hit the ground running. Again, we're in a position then where we kind of had to just get him into the team and just throw him into deep end. And due to the form that he had been on down south, Kai had a bit of confidence in, and he did kind of hit the ground running, and we thought we've got an absolute steal here. Let's just completely forget that season even happened. We've brought him in this summer. He's got 10 assists, 1 goal. You remember he had to play in a defensive midfield player for a while Callum McGregor was injured in the Champions League, and he seemed to take that role relatively well. I think we praised him quite a fair bit on his performances in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Does your perception of how well his season's been and his performances this season overall, does it change if we take away last season's impact?
No, I think it makes you more reluctant to criticise him. You kind of give him that wee bit more leeway because you know the level he can get to. Like last season, like that 3 month spell he had last season, I think has dictated the Celtic fans' opinion on his level of performance rather than be a barometer to say, well, he's not reached the levels yet. I think people are just kind of saying, well, he's a class act, and I think I get your point, but I would counteract that by a wee bit just saying if he signed this summer on loan, I don't think anybody signs him. I think you'd say, he came in and done a bit of a job. I know that there's the assist stats and they look good. I call it stat padding. I'm not entirely sure what it actually does. I've said before, the assist stat, I mean, Turnbull got an assist yesterday for Haksabanovic. He's called me. Come on, that's ridiculous. But I think his performances have been. He did the number 6 role when McGregor was injured, and I praised him. I thought he really impressed me there. He tucked into that role pretty good, but his level of performances this season have been really poor, really poor. Like, to quite honest with you, mate, when I seen the lineup and I seen him, man, I knew what performance I was going to get after him. I knew it was going to be turgid. I knew it was going to be slow, 2-3 touches of the ball. I knew he was going to slow down our attacking play. I knew the wide man was going to get the ball either too late or at least not fast enough. In fact, I said to the boy behind me, I says, I bet you 6 out of 10 Celtic attacks that break down, the last person to touch the ball will be Matt O'Reilly. He said, no, I get what you mean. He said, he's normally the last person you see touch a ball for Celtic. I said, aye. And I know he's got these 10 assists, but do you know, I can't remember him putting the ball on a plate for anybody. I can't remember him skinning a player into the byline and laying one off for 5-10 yards out. I think his assists have maybe came for past the body Jota for 30 yards out. He ran in and smacked it in or something. You know what I mean? I don't think the assist stats are. I think they've got to the stage now where I think they're ridiculous now, because I mean I've seen somebody saying that if you win a penalty you get the assist. You know what I mean? If the other person scores, that's just a ridiculous stat. You know what I mean? But no, I think the guy in his 15 months or whatever it is at Celtic, 14 months, I think he peaked for the first 3 months, and his level of performance, bear in mind his age, you're going to be inconsistent at that age, but it's fell off a cliff, albeit the 5 or 6 matches that he came in when McGregor was out. I don't think I certainly don't think that David Turnbull is Celtic class with this depth of talent we've got. I don't think he fits into that category either. I know people think that's a bit like, oh, come on, the way you played last season, but this season, I mean, you can only go on the matches you've seen for his prolonged stay. This season, he had a full pre-season at Celtic. He got to speak with the rest of the players, and he's come in. He's had a lot of game time, relatively, and I don't think he's produced the goods. I really don't. I mean, the assists, as you can see, I really don't buy into that at all. I mean, I think it reminds me. Sorry, I was going to say, it reminds me, him and David Turnbull, last season O'Reilly reminded me of Tom Rogic. This season, Turnbull and him totally remind me of Ryan Christie, a guy just frustrates you. I mean, people sitting in the top tiers, and they must be quivering every time, like I said, David Turnbull or Matt Riley's on the ball, because somebody's got to get hit one day.
I mean, the term is, a goal's a goal, and I kind of go by the whole an assist. There you could argue that an assist is also an assist, regardless of where it came from. They were part of the build-up of the goal. My personal opinion on Matt O'Reilly is I think he's a top player who has just dipped in confidence and maybe form as of late. We've obviously, with Aaron Moy really stepping up since after the World Cup, is obviously the lack of maybe performances, you could say, with Matt O'Reilly's maybe just put him down the pecking order a little, and now he's lacking in game time, which we have used as a reason as to why some players maybe aren't hitting top form, not getting a good run of games. With Hatate perhaps could be out for the next couple of weeks, we may, personally, I do think if Matt O'Reilly gets a run in that team, we'll see the performances that that's like got him the move here in the first place, and like I said, the high praise from pundits down south that were quite surprised that we managed to get him. I do believe it's just the term, form is temporary, class is permanent. I think he's a class act. You don't get, I mean, I don't think the Danish under 21 side were, they knew they had a gem there. They managed to convince him to leave his English.
No, that's fair, mate. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's all opinions. I don't think he's a class act. I mean, there's very few players in Scottish football that are class acts. I think Jota's a class act. Hatate's a class act. McGregor, Kyogo. I don't think he's a class act. No, I really don't. I don't think there's many class acts.
I think O'Reilly may be the player. He may be one of the ones that we could get a fair bit of money for when he decides. If we ever decide to cash in. Personally,
hope you're correct. And I must admit, when Hatate went half injured, I'm not just saying this, but one of my first thoughts was we've got 2 big matches coming up against Rangers, and I thought it really makes me nervous that we're going to get into the games with O'Reilly or Turnbull. I'm hoping Awata's going to be in with Moy and McGregor. I hope that's the midfield three, because I think O'Reilly's he needs 3 touches of the ball, and that totally upsets our rhythm. And Turnbull's got the same problem where he needs 2 free touches, and Celtic are just so slick. And whether they've got class and they can pick a pass, that's great. But when you're relying on majority of Celtic's play, I think it's all about slickness and movement and speed of thought. When you've got players that are habitually slowing the game down, that's worrying, especially when you've got Moy coming back. Because if Moy comes back and then you're putting him next to another slow player, you're going to lose a lot of momentum in that midfield, and it's a worry that that's maybe going to be an idea that Ange might pick up on and use, because I think that's an easy day for a well-organised defence, to be quite honest with you.
Phil, looking at Matt O'Reilly's his positions where he's played in his career, he's played as a central midfielder 100 times, scoring 12, getting 17 assists from that position. He's played as a defensive midfield player 39 times, believe it or not, and he's actually managed to score 4 goals from that position and assist 6 times. And as an attacking midfielder, 17 times, 3 goals, 4 assists. Is with Matt O'Reilly having to be moved into that McGregor position, which when you look back, you go, we had all these number 6s signed, and it ended up being Matt O'Reilly playing there. Has that hindered his playing time, because now Ange has maybe went, maybe you're actually better suited as a number 6, and then we'll play you as in a more central attacking midfield role only if necessary, and maybe that's hindered his playing time. To me, remember when we signed Hatate, he was named as the utility player. I almost feel like
that's right. I
almost feel like that's now become Matt O'Reilly's role, and maybe that's what's hindering his playing time. But what's your thoughts? Do you think he's got to get running the side now?
Well, obviously the captain, Callum McGregor, he's going to play all the time, and that is his position. I think O'Reilly's best spell this season was when he filled in there, which, as you rightly just pointed out, it's quite ironic that we had so many guys that were tailor-made for the old number 6 position. It turned out Matt O'Reilly was brilliant, and I didn't know he played there so many times. When it comes to like the stats and stuff linked to him, if he's playing as a defensive midfielder, the stats should be more looking at as him breaking up play and so on, rather than his assists and his goals. I don't read too much into like goal assists or goal scored for midfielders. That's more a striker thing. For midfielders, it's the assist one is more key, but when he's playing defensive, you'll be looking at his tackling and so on. But I thought he was fantastic, just using my own eyes and watched him for that time that he played in there. He was phenomenal. And of course, the form of Aaron Moy has taken so many people by surprise. Probably hasn't taken Ange Postecoglou by surprise, but for us here on the bus, I know it took us by surprise, because many of us were like, I don't know, my guy's played 13 games in 2 years, a free transfer from the Chinese league. He's been phenomenal since the World Cup. I think that's also kind of put O'Reilly a bit in the pecking order. That one's a good problem to have for Ange Postecoglou. But with O'Reilly, I mean, I'm a fan of him. I do think that, yes, we will get a big transfer fee for him when the day comes that he does get sold. Because for teams in England looking at him, he ticks a lot of the boxes that they'll be looking for. His age is very much on his side. You know, he apparently was getting scouted by some bigger teams before he joined us. There was some that were looking
Spurs
at him.
didn't want him to leave. Spurs really didn't
Was
want
it
him
Fulham?
to
Was
leave.
it no Fulham?
No,
that
sorry,
he played with?
sorry, Spurs. Fulham. Of course, I've
Fulham.
got Spurs on the head because of that
Aye.
Conte interview.
Oh, that was
but Fulham
mental.
Fulham didn't want him to leave. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
really. He pretty
Aye.
much had to almost say, "No, I'm going for the good of my career to get playing time."
Aye.
Which
He
then
was a
makes you
class-
wonder, you know, if
he was a
he's
class
lacking in
performance.
play time, Mark, if he's lacking in playing time at Fulham, and he said to leave, my concern would be if he's lacking in playing time here, then he might be looking at the exit door quicker than I'd like.
It wouldn't worry me if I know it probably sounds like I'm something against him. I'm not. I hope the guy turns into the best player that's ever kicked a ball. I mean, come on, but I'm just saying, it wouldn't worry me. There's certain players that I think Celtic can afford to lose. I think there's like your Turnbulls and your Rileys and the rest of it. We could afford to lose them and it wouldn't upset the actual the start of it. I don't think anyway. I really don't think they fall into that category. I do think Riley's form last season, the January to May, whatever it is, he totally let the place up. I thought he was like Tom Roderick's natural. I think he's a bit number 10. I think if he gets back at a number 10 role, you'll see the best of him, right? But I just think his performances have been very poor, and I know I can be a bit quick to judge players and rest of them. You all can be. I think you can judge a player positively, but no negatively. But I think his performances have been pretty poor. When you look at that team and you see the level that some of the players are getting at, he's nowhere near that level at this season for Celtic. You see some of the performances our midfield and our front three's putting in, and he is so far removed from that level. It is unbelievable. And I understand he might have played in big matches and got big results, but I mean, Eric Sviatchenko played in the 5-1 game against Rangers under Rodgers, but he's not the first player you think about how fantastic they played that day. You know what I mean? Some players, I don't know. You can spin it any way you want, but for me, if you're picking a starting 11 and you've got Matt O'Reilly in there, I think you're just kidding yourself and to prove your point. There's no way a Celtic fan who watches Celtic would pick Matt O'Reilly in their starting 11 for a Celtic game tomorrow if you had your full team picked. If you had a full squad, there's no way you pick that guy. No way.
Right, we'll move on from Matt O'Reilly because I know we spent a fair bit on him. But just quickly, saying what you're saying there, Mark. Let's just go back to the beginning of the season when we were arguing. We said you wouldn't have Moy anywhere near that team. Would you? I think O'Reilly was the player that you'd probably pick out of all the guys that you'd be wanting to start that lineup. So it's just funny how quickly, your outlook could be just determined on form, and that's why I just go on. Everyone said just wait till Moy gets up and running, and maybe it's just a case of just getting O'Reilly up and running. But before we move, this is just quickly, just so you get a kind of a viewpoint of I'd say consistency out of Matt O'Reilly. When he was at Milton Keynes, he played 54 Milton Keynes Dons, MK Dons. He played 54 games for them with 10 goals and 8 assists. He's played 61 goals for Celtic with 6 goals, 13 assists. So I think he's been pretty consistent in terms of his contributions to the team. But let's move on. This is 5-1 already. We've been through quite a lot already, to be fair. It's quite funny because it's always trying to find some talking points for us to discuss on a Sunday. Sometimes you can really beef it up, and sometimes you can't. You see, Yosuke Doguchi has been in the papers lately, kind of talking about his time at Celtic. Now, let's just bear in mind that he is out on loan. He's not out. We've not sold him, but he said in a Japanese paper that he thought that his time at Celtic he was fucked. Is the quote that he used? Believe it or not, out there.
Wow.
He was fucked from the go, just with the obviously the early injury.
Yeah, that was a real hammer thrower challenge. That one.
Yeah, and that's obviously it's hindered his career. Now, this guy was at Leeds and didn't manage to get a game at Leeds due to, I think it was to do with his visa. So he did come to Celtic concerned about is it going to work coming back to Europe? However, he did say that he was almost he was convinced by Ange to come and play at this style of football that he, believe it or not, when he looked at the style of football that Ange wants to play, he was a bit concerned that his style of football would not suit the way that Ange wants to play. However, the lure of Ange himself is what really brought him over to come to Celtic, as well as obviously playing for Celtic. However, the early injury that then kept him at the team, and he was quite aware that he was going to find it difficult to get into that midfield with the way the players have been performing. But yep, a bit of jealousy, he said, of not being able to play, and he knew that his career was not going to last very long if he stuck around at Celtic and decided that it would be best for his career to move back to Japan and almost start again. And hopefully he will do enough out there to then give himself another chance at Celtic. However, I don't think he lasted more than 2 games before he ended up breaking his ankle. So that's gonna. He's one of the most unluckiest professional football players out there at the minute, Phil.
Aye, it's I heard that story the other day. He's got out on loan and copped a bad injury right away. It's just nothing's going right for him at all. It's a shame because I had high hopes for him as well. Because again, it was that point in time where just everything Ange was doing in terms of players he's bringing for these obscure markets, you're just so intrigued to see them because everything was working out so well, and he was like the odd one out of all the players we brought over from the J League. Because that tackle that was put on him in that Aloha game was, and that for a player coming halfway across the world to come and play in that would put you off whenever you do get any more game time. You'll be like, this is what I'm up against. This is the standard. And to be fair, that is a lot of hammer throwing going on in Scottish football. So that would have probably intimidated him. He probably couldn't really got to play the type of game he wanted to play because he would always have that now in the back of his mind. But yeah, he now goes over back to Japan and that happens to him. It's a real unfortunate thing. But here's the thing, if he had stuck around, we're talking there about midfield options and stuff like that, he would probably still be in the exact same position he was before he left. He wouldn't be anywhere near the team just because, again, an embarrassment of riches in the middle of the park with Moy picking up the form and Hatate's been unbelievable. We bring in Iwata as well, who looks like he's going to be a good player. I think Giakouamkis would still have been way down the pecking order, regardless of that injury or not. It's the way it's worked out for him. It is very unfortunate. Definitely the unluckiest player in world football at the moment, by the sounds of it.
It seemed like he was having a bit of issues personally as well in terms of, I don't think his wife had settled in Glasgow. This is the direct quote I was talking about. I saw that my wife was even more frustrated at Celtic than I was, but I turned away from the reality that I was fucked again and clung to hope overseas. But you're looking for a place to play yourself, and I started thinking about going back to Japan and starting over. I mean, you would get away with saying that in the over here, but. Yeah, Mark, he's had a frustrating time at Celtic. I'd be honest, I could see us cutting ties with Giakouamkis. I mean, it was an experiment and not an expensive one. I think we could maybe just cut ties. However, he is contracted to 2026, so we might be able to at least get our money back if he decides it's better just staying in Japan and just coming to terms with the idea that I'm better just suited to the J League than I am overseas completely.
I mean, what a cheek him saying he was fucked. I think the Celtic fans were fucked when they signed him, to be honest with you. I mean, and you're right, I know it doesn't sound like an expensive mistake, but it's probably going to cost us £2 or £3 million if he manages to see that contract out. We saw Aboli Kawasi and the likes of Bolingoli and all these different players just see their contracts out and they're just chancellors. But I remember when the Freedom signed it, they were saying that that's the one that surprised them. The press over in Japan, they were really surprised that Celtic signed him because they didn't feel like he fitted in. In fact, they said that his best form was probably when he was about 18, 19. He had a phenomenal season where he was playing and gave out like the 3rd division in England with the Leeds or something like that. I don't think he was at top. I don't think it was the Premier League he was at with him. I think he was kind of low level. And as you said, the visa stopped him. But and you know, I think it sounds like excuses saying his family didn't fit in because I think it's a big part of the Celtic players. And Kyogo touched on it this morning. I don't know if you read the papers. He was saying that Celtic have got like Japanese style menus inside the training centre to make the Japanese and the Asian players feel more at home. And even on the team bus, they'll make them Asian food and things like that. That does that matters to
Yeah,
how players perform. You know what I mean? If you're happy at your work and you're happy at your home life, the two of them just merge together. I think that was a big part of some players no settling in during the COVID season. They were staying in hotels and all this stuff. But it just sounds like an excuse for the guy about his wife, although I'm sure that did matter. But I don't think Ange signs many players that don't fit his system. I don't think James McCarthy was his signing. I didn't think Aaron Moy fitted into the system, but it just shows you what I know. But he was obviously signed with a vision to provide something for the team, even if that was a support for other areas in midfield. I don't know exactly, but I think Ange sussed it very quickly. I think you can find that. I think you can buy a level of player, and when you bring them here, it's happened, I'm sure, every year in football. And you put them in the training centre and you put them up against the players you've got, and you go, my God, this guy isn't the player that I thought he was. You know what I mean? He was great to play against, but he's just not great to play for us. And I think he fits into that category. And I think Celtic have done well to avoid that under him. I don't think he's wasted a lot of money. I think a lot of players have come in. I mean, I've resorted my point on Bernabeu, but he's probably in that category. I know where he's maybe not been at the level. And Bernabeu, Ideguchi, I think he's just one of the ones that another cool asset where you go, we tried it, but do you know what? We'll try and, if we can, get rid of him.
Yeah, just touching on what you said there, I found the actual the quote from Kyogo. He said, I am grateful for the support of the club, and I can only thank them. At Celtic, rice, miso soup, natto or natto, etc. appeared on the menu for the Japanese players after the game. Sushi and curry seasoned to Japanese taste will be served. I can spend my time here without missing Japanese food. So, like, these little touches can really make or break whether a player's going to make it at the club. You know, it's a massive culture shock to them, Phil, coming over here and finding, what's this battered Mars bar? What's that? You know.
I hope none of them ate a battered Mars bar. I really hope they haven't.
So, I mean, was this a thing that Celtic has introduced recently? Is this something that maybe even Anne said, look, you're going to have to, you know, there's a reason why players aren't settling here because you're not providing them a little touch at home to help them settle, you know, and just like wee things like that can really, you know, like a player like Kyogo sitting going, this is great. This is exactly, I feel comfortable, and maybe that's part of the reason why they've settled so well. We'll start seeing maybe some Korean dishes added to the menu as well. It's just, I mean, and then you wonder if the players such as, you know, like the Cal Back and, you know, even like Starfelt, these guys, it's like, oh, all right, I'll try that. And Kyogo alludes into that article there that you know, they're very healthy dishes, and he feels that they've contributed to him performing better on the pitch, and perhaps that allows other players to
that
was at the
if Ronnie Dyler was still around, imagine he'd be having a fit if he saw a pizza crunch on the menu. But what?
Because you listen to something. I remember Paul DiCario went to Sunderland and he completely banned a lot of things off the menu. Ketchup. Yeah. Now that can completely unsettle players because, like, right, come on there, like a bit of ketchup. There's a good balance to have there. As I said, we're not going to tell you what you can't eat. However, we're going to provide you with, you know, with dishes that are going to help you perform. But yeah, we're not going to start banning stuff. There's a good balance, and obviously that's certainly contributed to the success. It's 1:05, guys. We will wrap it up here because now we're just discussing what we like to eat on a for a match game.
But,
so I think we've covered all the.
I'm going to say one thing just on the cultural stuff. You're saying the place, and this actually runs quite deep. You might be surprised at this because I actually read up on it. See, in Japan, you could literally draw a line down the country of Japan, dividing east and west. Apparently, there are massive cultural differences from one side of the country to the other. Every single Japanese player that Ange has signed are all from the west side of the country. That's very deliberate what he's doing. I saw another pod mentioned it, and I actually went and looked up a thing on Google about like the cultural differences in east and west, like what the sort of favourite food is in one side of the country compared to the other. And it turns out, and I went on Wikipedia, looked at all the cities that all of our Japanese players are from, and they're all from cities on the west side of the country, every single one of them. So there's a reason behind that. So Ange's even thinking of things like that to help them settle because they've all got the same sort of cultural tendencies. So even a country like Japan, you literally draw a line between East and West, and So I'm just thinking about all these things as well when you were mentioning about that. So it did come back to me there. It's quite fascinating stuff. So Andy's one step ahead, two steps ahead. Aye.
Well, if he was 3 steps ahead, he'd have put in bus 1888 at piesports.com and he would have got some got the pies in.
Exactly.
Right, lads, we've got 7 p.m. for the Sunday sesh tonight with Boise and a couple of guests. I'm not sure who he's got on, but we'll keep that as a surprise, you know. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us this lunchtime Sunday Blether. Phil McGinley, the judge, Mark Kearney. We shall see you guys next week. Thanks again. Take care.
Catch you later, guys.
Well, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.